I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming. It's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
Hey folks, welcome back to the program. This is Chris live in central Pennsylvania on January 6, 2025, 4 years after the momentous events of January 6, 2021. This time, though, it's the certification of Donald John Trump as the 47th president of the United States. We are waiting to get started here. Congress is in session, but they're just chattering away at the moment. You can listen to them in the background. Let me just turn that volume back on for a second here. As Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, sits up on stage, up on the podium with Kamala Harris, who looks kind of puzzled as she's about to declare her loss in this. Let me get to this really quick. You can hear the noise in the background. There you go. There's Mike Johnson and Speaker of the House, along with the Vice President, Kamala Harris, who is on her way out, thankfully, in just a matter of days, this vile, repulsive human being. Let me go ahead and put that on mute. And what I'm going to do now is just take you back to January 6, 4 years ago, folks. January 6, 4 years ago. Give me a second here. I got to go back. And this is an eyewitness account of events that unfolded in January of 2021. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you find yourself today. Folks, welcome back to Chris Wyatt. It is the 6th of January, 2022. This is a special broadcast covering the events that took place on the 6th of January, 2021. Well, welcome back to the program, folks. It's a pleasure to have you join me today. I hope that you find yourself well wherever you may be around the world. And of course, once again, with such a momentous date in mind, I am wearing traditional American colors of red, white, and blue, just in a different fashion today. And this one is an Izod pullover, or as they say in German, or sweater, as we say here in America. Welcome back to the program, folks. What's going to follow now for the next hour or so? I'm going to show you raw footage plus my commentary. Sometimes you'll hear me or the crowd, and then I'll mute that, and then I'm going to put myself back on camera so you can see my narration of what's actually happening here. These are events that unfolded. This is over an hour and a half of actual footage from the events, including the Trump rally, which honestly I didn't even know about until shortly before that, and then the effort by Americans to make their voices be heard, seeking a right of redress, which is being lied about, especially in the Washington Compost today, endlessly by people who are just full of it and don't know what they're talking about and trying to rewrite contemporary history even as it unfolds. It's disappointing. It's sad. It is really pathetic, to say the least. Look a little bit different, don't I? Look a little bit different. Just a little bit different than that. So let me go back and see what's going on. Make sure that they haven't started the events over there in Congress. Hang on a second. No, they haven't started yet. Okay, so in that video, I produced over an hour of footage from the events that took place back in 2021. 8 minutes in. Okay, here we go, finally. There we go. Jump ahead here. So, see, you make your own analysis and make your own conclusions about the events on January 6th. Do you see people with firearms? Do you see people with explosives? Do you see people with sticks and pickaxes, tar and feathers? You do not. You do not. The world has been fed a lie, and this video refutes that lie. If you're not a subscriber, please become one by smashing the button down below. Cheers. Thanks a lot, folks. Not a small crowd. 250,000.
Hey folks, Chris here live on the mall, Washington, D.C. When you see this, it won't be live. Either data suppression from T-Mobile or YouTube, one of the two, as people start to gather on the mall, right between the Smithsonian museums on each side of me here. And I see some rather unpolite language for Biden back there on the flag.
Yeah.
But directly behind me here as I spin around is the nation's capital, where the weak, callow members of the House and the Senate today will most likely vote to enshrine the plagiarist-in-chief as the next president of the United States. But here we are in the mall, and I just thought I'd give you a little bit of update since obviously YouTube and or T-Mobile are suppressing the network connection. I had a perfect connection 2 miles from here. I was able to live stream, but now I can't. Well, let me take you.
Don't want to get a copyright claim there. Yeah, so that was me walking around the mall on that date. They're still not started yet. Boy, a lot of chat going crazy. 38,000 people watching this on the Fox News update. So, yep. So, arrival. I was trying to live stream here, and you see the Capitol building behind me, the distance there. Lots of people arriving, very peaceful, well-behaved, no issues going on here. None of the lies that later come about. I got to keep moving myself around because I'm walking on the screen. Yeah, so there was a big stand there. People, lots of vendors, a lot of black guys selling T-shirts and caps and things. It was impressive. The well-behaved crowd. Nobody was shouting racial epithets. No racism whatsoever. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, mostly white folks. But then remember, folks, when people try to tell you that, oh, look, there's a Hispanic lady behind you, it's all white people. Well, 76% of America's population is white, so it should hardly be a surprise that white folks would show up primarily. 3 out of 4 people, all things being equal, should be white in this crowd, just being general speaking. That's the Smithsonian buildings around me. The African American History Museum is up there in the right-hand corner now, where you see the people carrying the flag. A lot of F. Biden flags. I try to avoid that, but that's the African American History Museum over there, given the most prominent position. And then you can't see it. See the 3 little white caps in the center there, to the right of the Washington Monument, and just to the right of that, that's where the 8,000 or so Asian Americans had gathered to express their love for Trump, their hatred of communist China. As if 13% of the population never covered by the press. Is the most important part of the country. African American history is critical to America's history, and African Americans, Black Americans, played a key role in the development and the growth of this country. But the fanaticism associated with that museum is disgusting and vile, and it's quite turns people off. The people who entered that building, the vast majority of them know nothing about the history of America, let alone the contribution of African Americans in this country, just a bunch of racial sycophants. By contrast, the Native American Museum, which is rather disappointing. I've never been in this museum, by the way, because every time I've gone, there's too many people in line because, you know, you got to do it. You're here. So people just go out of sense of obligation. Some go for their racist beliefs. Others go because they want to learn about African American contributions to our history. But the Native American Museum was given a far less prominent position on the opposite end, just before the Capitol building. And that museum is quite frankly very... So, yeah, I'm just checking. They're still not ready. Okay, we're getting ready now.
The electoral vote of the state of Alaska seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 3 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 3 votes for vice president.
So we're underway. Alaska, they go alphabetically 50 states. Each one will come up and certify it.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Arizona seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 11 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 11 votes for vice president.
There you go. Alaska, Arizona. Look at her. She's holding up pretty well. Alabama?
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Arkansas.
Excuse me.
Seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 6 votes for vice president.
This is how it's supposed to go. It's just a formality. Yeah, they read each state and then people can object. But they've changed the objection rules.
The certificate of the electoral vote of the state of California seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 54 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 54 votes for vice president.
California. Connecticut? I'm just guessing the alphabetical order here.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Colorado seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 10 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 10 votes for vice president.
NW, they're calling her president because she's the president of the Senate, and that's her role today as the president of the Senate to certify these results.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Connecticut seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California.
She looks like a robot.
7 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 7 votes for vice president.
So look, she's in the back. She looks stoic, like a freaking robot.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Delaware seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 3 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 3 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the District of Columbia seems to be irregular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of
No, it's
California
alphabetical.
received 3 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 3 votes for vice president.
Wait till we get to Nebraska and Maine. They split theirs.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Florida seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 30 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 30 votes for vice president.
Hoorah! They're not putting a running tally up here, which is silly. They ought to do that.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Georgia seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 16 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 16 votes for vice president.
It won't take long to get through this, folks. Then we get to the certification.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Hawaii seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 4 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 4 votes for vice president.
Hey, Johnny, how's it going there?
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Idaho seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 4 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 4 votes for vice president.
There you go. So we're up to the HI, Indiana.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Illinois seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 19 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 19 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Indiana seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump
Zero,
of the state
Charles,
of Florida
zero.
received 11 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 11 votes for vice president.
Yeah, there's 0 chance, Charles. Nothing's going to happen. But it would be news, wouldn't it? I'd surge from 68 to 6,000 viewers if that happened.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Iowa seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 6 votes for vice president.
Georgia.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Kansas seems to be regular in form
What?
and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald
not
J.
quite in
Trump
order.
of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 6 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the Commonwealth of Kentucky seems to be regular in form and authentic, and appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 8 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 8 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Louisiana
Mike Johnson State.
regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 8 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 8 votes for vice president.
No, Charles, the Electoral College has done its task. They've handed it over to the Senate, the Congress, and that's their responsibility. It's certified as a Congress. That's what's going on.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Maine seems to be regular in form and authentic.
This should be interesting. It's split.
It appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 3 votes for president, and Donald J. Trump of the state
One.
of Florida received 1 vote for president.
Exactly.
And Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 3
Three
votes
votes.
for vice president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio
1 vote.
received 1 vote for vice president.
Nebraska will be the next one. It's interesting. No applause for Maine. People are talking about it because it's odd. They're probably dumb and don't even know it works that way,
Madam
members of Congress.
President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Maryland seems to be regular in form and
No, it
authentic.
doesn't. No, it doesn't.
It appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 10 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 10 votes for vice president.
Maryland, Montana, Michigan.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 11 votes for president, and Tim
And look at her.
Walz
She's got a
of
stick up her
Minnesota
ass.
received
She's not budging.
votes for vice
Very stoic. But what would you expect? I mean, it's a tough situation to be in for her. These are incredible piece of paperwork.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Michigan seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 15 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 15 votes for vice president.
Michigan, the blue wall that collapsed. The Democrats don't know how to build walls.
The certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Minnesota seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 10 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 10 votes for vice president.
Minnesota. Shawnee, you there? Minnesota. There's a FedEx envelope under there. See, that's the actual stuff mailed by the Electoral College representatives in the states.
The certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Mississippi seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 6 votes for vice president.
Mississippi, Mississippi. Mississippi.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Missouri seems to be
Trump.
regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 10 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 10 votes for vice president.
A lot of states with 10 electoral votes. Yeah, the actual envelopes they were mailed in, you can see it there.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Montana seems to be regular
Trump.
in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 4 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 4 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Nebraska seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 4 votes for president, and Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 1 vote for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 4 votes for vice president.
See,
And Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 1 vote for vice president.
that's another 2 states, by their own laws, break up the electoral votes differently based on congressional districts and on the state as a whole, on popular vote. So that's Nebraska and Maine.
Madam President, The certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Nevada seems to be regular in form
Trump.
and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 6 votes for vice president.
We're getting there. We're through the ends now, and it's only been 20 minutes. It's pretty good.
President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of New Hampshire seems to be regular in form and authentic.
No, it's not.
It appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 4 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 4 votes for vice president.
So you can see the envelope there was mailed in. It's pretty crazy. FedEx,
Madam
UPS.
President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of New Jersey seems to be
Harris.
regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 14 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 14 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of New Mexico seems to be regular in form and authentic.
Harris.
And it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 5 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 5 votes for vice president.
It'd be funny if one of these people says it appears that the robot standing behind me received this many votes.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of New York seems to be regular in form and
Harris.
authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 28 votes for president. Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 28 votes for vice president.
Next one came FedEx. It's a FedEx envelope underneath it. You see it there?
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of North Carolina seems
Trump.
to be regular in form and authentic. And it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 16 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 16 votes for vice president.
Robert Franklin Moore states the Electoral College votes, every state gets 2, 1 for each senator, plus a vote for every representative in the House of Representatives.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of North Dakota seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 3 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 3 votes for vice president.
No, Ronaldo, I can't change the volume. It's from the source. That's as loud as it goes.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Ohio seems to be regular in form and authentic.
Trump.
And it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 17 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 17 votes for vice president.
What's going on? Oh, they're standing for J.D. Vance because he's from Ohio.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Oklahoma seems to be
Trump.
regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 7 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 7 votes for vice president.
I think Kamala Harris has had about 3 or 4 Ambien before this started.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Oregon seems to be regular in form and authentic.
Harris.
And it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 8 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 8 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 19 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 19 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Rhode Island seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 4 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 4 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of South Carolina
Trump,
seems to be regular
the Palmetto State.
in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 9 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 9 votes for vice president.
We're getting there. Pennsylvania's coming. Pennsylvania's coming. 17 votes.
Madam
Pennsylvania.
President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of South Dakota seems to be
Trump.
regular in form and authentic. And it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 3 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 3 votes for vice president.
South Dakota has a small population and only 1 member of the House of Representatives, so 2 votes for the senators and 1 vote for the member of the House. That's why they get 3 votes.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Tennessee seems
Trump.
to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 11 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 11 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Texas seems
Trump.
to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 40 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 40 votes for vice president.
40 votes. Wow.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Utah seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears
Trump.
therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance from the state of Ohio received 6.
Use AI to create.
Oh, my goodness. Sorry about that, folks. Sorry about that.
Electoral vote of the state of Vermont seems to be regular in form and authentic. And it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 3 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 3 votes for vice president.
How do we skip Pennsylvania?
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the Commonwealth of Virginia seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 13 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 13 votes for vice president.
They're not exactly in alphabetical order here. Thought they would be. Oh, my goodness. I've answered that question already, Trump.
Madam President, the
Ronaldo.
certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Washington seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 12 votes for president.
She is the president of the Senate. That's why when it's a 50-50 tie, she votes. She's president of the Senate, and that's her role in the president of the Senate, which is what she's fulfilling right now. Washington.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of West Virginia seems to be regular in form
Trump.
and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 4 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 4 votes for vice president.
Still got Washington, which went for Harris.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the great state of Wisconsin seems to be regular in form and authentic. And it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 10 votes for president.
Another one,
and J.D.
10.
Vance of the state of Ohio received 10 votes for vice president.
Another state with 10 electoral votes. About the same size population. We're almost there, folks.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Wyoming seems
Trump.
seems to be regular,
3 votes.
informed, and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 3 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 3 votes for vice president.
All right, there you go.
Members of Congress, the certificates having been read, the tellers will ascertain and deliver the result to the President of the Senate.
She is the President of the Senate. They will give her the results, and she will certify them. It's a symbolic
The
act.
undersigned, Deb Fisher and Amy Klobuchar, tellers on the part of the Senate, and Brian Steele and Joseph Morelli, tellers on the part of the House of Representatives.
That's who read the results.
Following as the result of the ascertainment and counting of the electoral vote for President and Vice President of the United States for the term beginning on the 20th day of January, 2025.
So Klobuchar was the one with the little sassy haircut that kept coming out.
For the President of the United States, as delivered
Here it comes.
to the President of the Senate, is as follows. The whole number of the electors appointed to vote for President of the United States is 538.
Correct.
Within that whole number, the majority is 270.
Yep.
The votes for President of the United States are as follows.
312.
Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris.
She's being very professional. And she's smiling. This is a smart move on her part. Very smart to be graceful. Very smart for her to be graceful. She's feeling the joy. Look at Kamala Harris feeling the joy. Yep.
Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 226
26.
votes.
The Democrats cheer for her.
The whole number of electors appointed to vote for Vice President of the United States is 538.
She said that already.
In that whole number, a majority is 270. The votes for Vice President of the United States are as follows. J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio has received 312 votes. Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota has received 226 votes. This announcement of the state of the vote by the President of the Senate shall be deemed a sufficient declaration of the persons elected, President and Vice President of the United States, each for a term beginning on the 20th day of January
2025.
2025, and shall be entered together with the list of the votes on the journals of the House and the Senate. Thank you very much.
And there you have it. Donald John Trump is certified as the 47th President of the United States in a joint session of Congress. The President of the Senate presiding, Kamala Harris, the defeated candidate in the election, very graceful, and a handshake from Mike Johnson as she exits the stage. I have to give Kamala Harris some props. It was very graceful on her part. Very.
The purpose of the joint Senate having been concluded pursuant to Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 2, the 119th Congress, the chair declares this joint session dissolved. Thank you.
There you go, folks. All right. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Didn't take long, did it? Amy Klobuchar and others, members of the House and Senate, were the ones reading. So what you saw there were members of the House and Senate, including evil Amy Klobuchar there on the left-hand side with a red blouse on, reading the results. 2 members of the House, 2 members of the Senate, reading all the results of all 50 states in the District of Columbia. 538 votes. Donald John Trump, this is a process that's just administrative. It's only occasionally been a problem in the past. Let me get rid of that screen. Hang on a second there. I'll get rid of that just a second there. That thing has popped up. I'll get rid of that. So, yeah, this is just a pro forma sort of thing. It shouldn't be an issue, but it has been an issue, courtesy of the Democrats in the year 2000 when they objected to the results. And then in the year 2004, they objected to the results. At that time, it actually rose to the level. Previously, under the past law, you needed one member of the House, one member of the Senate to raise an objection, and they would have to recess and discuss the objection about the validity of electoral votes from that state or the District of Columbia. In 2000, the Democrats had a member of the House do it, but no one in the Senate did it, so it sailed through. In 2004, a member of the House of Representatives from Ohio and a member of the Senate from California stood up from the Democratic Party and challenged Ohio's electoral votes, which was bogus and baseless, but they had to recess, adjourn, discuss it, come back, and then vote on it again. That was in 2004. In 2016, the Democrat and a member of the House stood up and opposed Donald Trump's certification. Nothing, because nobody in the Senate did it. In 2020, Josh Hawley in the Senate and Republicans in the House planned to stand up. And then, of course, we had the events of 2020 unfold. The Democrats claimed that opposing the certification electoral college was an insurrection. It was illegal. It was a violent overthrow of the government. It's simply not true. This is a matter of parliamentary procedure. It is how the system works. Today, the rule has changed. They changed the law in 2022 so that we have a very different situation today than we had then. So, what happens if a member of Congress objects to the results? They can, but it doesn't happen very often. Like I said, members of Congress are allowed to object after state certification is read out. No one did that. But in order for the presiding officer to hear the objection, it needs to be in writing and signed by 1/5 of the members of the House, the lower chamber, and by 1/5 of the Senate. So you need in the Senate 20 members of the Senate to say, we object to this. And in the House, you need 1/5. So what's that going to be, about 85 or something like that? So 435 divided by 20. Oh, no, that's not right. Clear. 435 divided by 0.2 equals, that's not right. 0.2 times 435. Now I got my math right. 87. You need 87 members of the House of Representatives to sign the piece of paper objecting. You need 20 members of the Senate to sign it, and then someone stands up and objects. That's not going to happen. Previously, an objection only needed to be raised by one member from each chamber. They've made this impossible, so they will never, ever again see the results of the Electoral College challenged because of this. The policy came about in 2022 in an attempt to make objections more difficult, and it has succeeded. If an objection does not meet the new requirements, a joint session, or it does meet the requirements, the joint session would be suspended for the House and Senate to consider the objection separately. Both chambers would then reach a majority vote, and they come back for the objection to be sustained. Challenges to electoral votes in Arizona and Pennsylvania were rejected by both the House and Senate in 2021. So, once this certification is complete, there is only one step left in the process before Trump is officially president, the inauguration. On January 20th, the Trump family, former presidents and members of the public will gather on the west front of the Capitol for the official swearing in of the 47th president of the United States. And there you have it, folks. Finished and clear. That's it. The Democrats are trying all their nonsense. All kinds of people on social media, on TikTok, on Twitter, on YouTube, making all kinds. Oh, it's not over. We will stop Trump. The 14th Amendment. Shut up. You're just a bunch of fools that don't understand the rule of law. And that's the bottom line here. But those fools have hundreds of thousands of subscribers and millions of followers. It's insane. Yes, hopefully she exits the stage for good and never does anything again. And then Mr. Smiley Burris says, go Trump. Yep, she's as graceful as she wants, but I still think she's a fool, says Courtney. Well, I don't disagree. Kamala is never graceful, but this performance could be deemed gracious. Yes, Keith, I said that was gracious of her, what she did there. Yep, she's clearly schnockered. She must have had a fifth of scotch before she got up there. All right, cool. Kamala Harris was not a good VP. I take my hat off to her for grace and respect she showed in certification. And I agree, Neville, same thing. Yep, she's finished better than she started. Bye-bye, ex-borders are. Yeah, exactly. Where do you get the flag emojis? They're under the emojis. You remember, Tony? So you should have them. The flag emojis. I'm not sure which ones. I have the South Africa and the USA one in there, I think. Oh, the other ones I don't know. I don't know where Pablo's getting those from, where he found those. Yeah, Waltz would have been very scary. Woo! As a vice president, that would have been very, very, very scary indeed. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's and let me bring this up again, and we'll talk about. So this was 2021, and you just saw today. That's how it went. Done and dusted. 34 minutes. The whole thing is over. They didn't even start on time. So about 26 minutes it took to certify 50 states in the District of Columbia, and the whole thing is solved. So we have it resolved. Last time this thing went on all day. Remember that? Trump rally, then the march on the Capitol building, which is legitimate and authorized under the Constitution, but then fools walking into the Capitol building, some breaking into it, and the whole thing went sideways. But let's take a look at back to January 6, 2021, and my coverage of that day and the events.
Perhaps one day I'll get there. But the problem is that this is in the nation's capital, an occupied military district now. And so there you go. See the police cars right there? Right there. That's it. That's it. Go back right there. That's a cop car right there. That cop car is the only one I see on the mall that entire morning. That's it. You see one down here? There's a car sitting there.
That's it. No police
and that
presence.
car will leave in a moment. See that white car down there?
That's a police car.
It will leave. There's the African American History Museum. Now, sometimes I was using two devices to record simultaneously, and that's one reason why things are bumping around. There's a cop car, and it leaves. And then that's the end of the law enforcement presence on
one
the
car.
Capitol.
750,000 people on the mall that day.
This car right here.
And he's inching forward towards the crowd.
I have no idea what he was doing or what he
Neither
hoped
do I.
to do. I think he wanted to get through there, and he finds out he can't. He turns around and leaves. So there's the bus stop for employees of the Smithsonian. See, now there's a group of Asians over here who are protesting.
There's about 8,000 people on that little knoll over there who are Asians against the Communist Party and for Trump. Never reported by the media, completely ignored and dismissed by the media. Let me jump ahead a little bit here to the Washington Monument. We'll get to that. What's going on here? Am I getting an ad? Oh, now it's going to spin.
Last year, what you're watching right now.
There you go.
So this is much a surprise for me as distribution. Even though I've made videos and put them together, I don't edit my footage. The only thing I'm doing now is editing out the sound so that I don't get hit with copyright claims because the Trump rally was playing music in the background. Last year when I played a video, YouTube gave me a copyright claim. I said, I'm not playing their music. This is fair use. It was being played in public. And they still wouldn't take the copyright claim down. So that's why I'm muting it. This is my video. This is my property.
First person reporting from January 6, 2021, 4 years ago. No snow on that day. And you can see quite a crowd was there. We're going to jump ahead a little bit here too, again. Okay. Yeah, give it a second to pop up there. Yeah, look at that crowd. Man, that's a lot of people. A lot of people. There's a Marine right there. Look at that. One small angle. That was the Trump rally. I covered that. And then later went to the Capitol. Look at this. That is Constitution Avenue in front of the Ellipse. I couldn't get through there. It was insane. And that's where people were dropping off their bags to get into the Ellipse, which is further down on the left-hand side. Or is it right there? Maybe it's right there. That's the security. I'm sorry, I already passed it. That's the security right there on the left-hand side. Look, it was a mass of people. And didn't get robbed, no pickpockets, nothing stolen, no beatings, no assaults, no insurrection, no firearms, no nothing. Yep. Look at that. That was insane. Absolutely insane, folks. What a day. That's all the portalets they had to cover 250,000, 500,000 people. Look at people in the trees. They're in the trees. But we've had that before. We've had inaugurations where people in the trees on the mall back in the 19th century. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here again. And there I am walking down the street. This is on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Okay, we're going to end this video. Now here I've jumped back to the African American History Museum. That's where this is at. The African American History Museum is to my back. I'm standing alongside it, back up on the other end of that street. All right, so this is people headed towards the Capitol building now. Okay, so that's the end of that stream. Let me end that one. Okay, let me turn the screen off real quick and come back to me. Okay, so let me bring up the other video.
All right, so this is on the way to the Capitol.
There was no toilet. So these are people leaving the Trump rally headed to the Capitol building. Now, I show that flag, but that's not a one-off. And you'll see prominently at the front of what's happening at the Capitol building, dozens of LGBT crowd flags. Lots of homosexuals support Donald Trump because they know the lies said about him are simply lies. He doesn't have an issue with gay Americans. So what the heck is this? Last time I did that, someone said, play this, and I started getting lots of profanity after the fact. So I'm not going to play that right now. I'll play it afterwards, and if it's something I can use, I'll use it later today. Yeah, so this is what's going on. Now, people start throwing water bottles at the cops.
But you can see hardly an insurrection. Police have put barriers up there, bicycle racks, There are some people misbehaving at the front, pushing things. See those guys trying to pull down the bicycle rack there? But the police are up there wearing soft caps and bicycle helmets, no body armor. Many of them didn't even have firearms. This is what they did. They allowed protesters to go all the way up to this barrier, then claimed that they were trespassing. Well, they weren't trespassing. There was nothing marked. It's public property. There's nothing marked saying that we are forbidden to walk on the grounds of the Capitol building. It's open to the public. That area up there was blocked off, and that area could be considered trespassing. But short of that, it wasn't. Yeah, there's also isn't full of trash. People didn't leave their rubbish laying around. They carried it back. Look, you can see the gay flag, don't tread on me flag, the Gadsden purpose, Liberty flags, American flags. It was pretty cray-cray, the noise there that day. That was actually me. Yeah, there you go. So let me jump ahead a little bit more here. It got boring after a while, quite frankly. Quite frankly, it got boring after a while. Here we go. Stop the steal, that's up there. Yeah, look at the wind. It was cold that day too, folks. Very cold. Very, very cold. Now, one has to ask the question, why in the world were there no actual barriers put up? This, what does stop the steal mean? That was a slogan. Yeah, it was a slogan that was tied to the election. So there we go. Let's jump ahead a little bit more. They let people get all the way right on top of the police. No barriers, no physical restraints, no restricted area, nothing. And look at these insurrectionists now. See the guys in fatigues. Hang on a second there. Let me go back. Hang on. Let me go back to where it was. Okay. Yeah, this here, that was criminal activity there. Those people should be prosecuted. But look right there. Okay. Okay. Damn it. It jumped ahead. There we go. All right. Look right there. No, I lost it again. There it is. The guy in front of me has got a backpack on and wearing camouflage equipment and wearing a gaiter. Right there. He spun around. That was a provocateur in the crowd who was there. Right there, right there. See that guy right there? That guy right there with the glasses. That's one of the ones who disappeared. If you look to the left-hand side of the screen, you will see on the left-hand side of the screen a guy with a black hoodie on and that's a water thing on his back. That's another one of those. There were several of these people in the crowd that were there to try to start some trouble. Look at all the people up on top of the television tower. Why wasn't that locked and secured? Why wasn't that locked and secured? This is very suspicious. The FBI didn't want this footage. I offered it to them, and they refused. Very suspicious. Well, that's not the button I meant to push. Sorry about that, folks. Camelbacks. Yeah, it's a camelback, Charles. Oh, here's the black guy that was trying to start crap. Yeah, he was trying to get people to incite violence. Right there. There he is. I don't know if we can hear him there. Let me see if we can hear him. Right there. That right there. See that black guy right there? Wearing a camouflage jacket. And look at the white people standing around him like he's crazy. He was trying to incite violence. That guy right there. The FBI had no interest in this whatsoever. No interest in the video. He was trying to get people to charge the police and go past the barriers. That's what that guy was doing. Yep, they had no interest in this whatsoever. Don't know who he is. Don't know what he was all about. All I know is that that guy right there with his arm in the air, pointing, was spewing nonsense about Trump. And when asked questions, he didn't know anything about Trump. He was there to start trouble. And look what's happening. People are completely ignoring him. Nobody's doing anything. Nobody's following his nonsense. And he's saying, F the police, they're shooting mace, and we have a right to be here. It was crazy. And they had no interest in that whatsoever. The Federal Bureau of Incompetence, Department of Injustice, could care less about what was going on there. All they want is their narrative and their false narrative to lie about what happened. Prosecute the people who broke the law and stop lying about Americans. This was just the front of the crowd there. And look at that. Oh, this is at about 2:15, 2:20 probably. I left about 5 minutes after this. And look, they look so violent. People taking pictures and video recording, standing around cheering. Yeah, they look so dangerous. Such an insurrection. Now, the leftists are going to say, but look what happened after that. Yeah, you're right, because there was a lack of police presence. And there were people in the crowd intentionally placed there to instigate violence. That's what it was all about, to undermine the reputation of Donald Trump. Yep. That's exactly right. Yep. So that pretty much is most of it. That's going to end it right there. So we're going to end that. Let me turn off my video there because it's about the end of it. So I compiled that footage, and a year afterwards, I did a video on that. That video has only got 334 views on it. If you want to see the whole video, you can do that, and you're welcome to it. And I don't mind you going there and watching. It'd be great to get a little spike on that video, 4 years later, just to bring it back into or 3 years later, just to bring it back into attention. But there's the link to that video, and you just go there if you haven't seen it before, and even if you have, just go play it for a few minutes. I'd appreciate it and help it grow a little bit. Yep. Just wish people would respect and accept the election results of their countries peacefully, whether one agrees with it or not. Well, those people did accept it peacefully. They protested peacefully. The right of the people to assemble is guaranteed in the Constitution, by our Constitution. It shall not be infringed upon by the federal government. That's why they issued 6 permits to protesters that day, because it's a constitutional right. The right of the people to peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. That's exactly what was going on that day. And unfortunately, a lack of police presence precipitated by Muriel Bowser and by Nancy Pelosi, and in collusion with the Capitol Police and other agencies like the D.C. Police Department, resulted in a lack of security at the event, which was intentional, hoping that an event could be provoked to create this false narrative for the past 4 years. And that's exactly what happened. Now, that said, there were people who broke in the Capitol building, people who sat in Nancy Pelosi's office, smoked cigars, smoked weed, hit police officers. They should be prosecuted. They should be prosecuted. Absolutely. Tony Nash said something. After 4 years, the FBI released the footage of the pipe bomb. They are asking for help to find it. 4 years after the fact. No, this is it's a last desperate attempt to prove the relevance under a leftist government. Yep. Legal way to dispute the elections. It was blown out of control by the Democrats and their intentional actions. Yep, this was a legal action. 6 permits were issued by the Capitol Police for demonstrations. Now, strangely, permits were issued on the west side and the east side. You saw footage from the west side, which opens up into the mall, that long grassy area that runs all the way down to the Jefferson Memorial at the other end. That Washington Memorial, the World War II Memorial in between, the Lincoln Memorial, all that stuff in between. So that's not unusual. People go in the mall and protest all the time for all sorts of things. Black Lives Matter, the Million Man March, the list goes on and on. Abortion rights, the Right to Life March every year in January, which is cold. So this day they issued permits on that side, plus they issued permits on the west side of the building. And then they tried to destroy Doug Mastriano, a state senator, a colleague of mine from War College, who's a currently state senator, just got reelected, I believe. Doug was there that day on the west side where the Supreme Court building is at, and the other side of the Capitol building. And he never entered the building. He never did anything. He was just there. They took photographs and video and claimed that he was a violent insurrectionist and tried to destroy him politically. These people should be prosecuted for slander and libel. Every one of them. Every one of them should be prosecuted for slander and libel. And Donald Trump needs to take a very hard look at the sentencing of Taretto, the Proud Boys, and those other guys. There have been a clear misuse and abuse of the judicial system in prosecuting people who weren't even present there, claiming a seditious effort going on. There was no insurrection. It's ridiculous to see these people claim this. The video is private? Oh, is it? Okay, sorry. Hang on a second. Let me get there. Hang on. Sorry. Maybe that's why nobody's watched it. Okay, January 6th. Okay. You're right. It's private. Okay. All right. There you go. My bad. I didn't know it was private. All right. It's no longer private now. All right, you're good. You can go watch it. My bad, my video. Sorry about that, folks. It's available. It's there. My bad. That's on me. I must have made it private at some point. Yep. Well, look, Tony, Ashley Babbitt is the architect of her own demise. I'm sorry. That's a harsh penalty, but she had no business being inside the building. No business being inside the building. She allowed her exuberance to get her involved in something that was a criminal act. And she had no business inside the building. She is not one of the people that just wandered in the building. She was threatening the lives of people in the building. That's a fact, whether we want to accept that or not. And yes, I saw the footage where she tried to calm people down. She should not have been in the building. That doesn't justify the murder of Ashley Babbitt. But had she not broken the law, she would be alive today. It's as simple as that. So, it's difficult to have sympathy for Ashley Babbitt. I feel bad for her husband. But very difficult to have sympathy for Ashley Babbitt for me because she had no business in the building. 250,000 people outside didn't go in the building. 250,000 people didn't climb like a bunch of monkeys all over the freaking inauguration steps, like a bunch of fools. 250,000 people didn't tussle with the police and throw water bottles at them and mace the police. 250,000 people didn't do that. But those 250,000 people's reputations were tarnished. They were afraid to tell people they were participating in the event because they would be chased down by a corrupt Justice Department and FBI when they did nothing wrong except exercise their constitutionally guaranteed right. So people like Ashley Babbitt and all the people who went in the building brought it upon themselves. Simple as that. Okay, well, Mr. Smiley Burris, I put some videos on private, but I don't remember putting that one on private. So maybe YouTube put on private. Yeah, most people were ushered in by the Capitol Police, but that was the police just gave up. They couldn't hold the tie back, so they gave up. Yep. Anyway, so try it, guys. Yeah, Neville, your point is quite valid. It's always a small element that's the bad seeds that cause these problems. Yep. Oh, Mr. Sponder, can you guys get to it now? Is the question. Can people see it now? Just tell me if you can see it now. I'll know if people just started watching it. So anyway, but I'll leave it up for a bit. So yeah, I unlocked it. So it's available now. So if you can't get to it now, then that's a concern. So let me get to let me see Jan 6 again. Jan 6. Okay. All right. It says that it's public. So let me see if I can play it. Yeah, I've got to it. Okay. Yes, it's open. Okay. Well, there you go. So feel free to watch it. That's a recounting video footage of what happened 4 years ago. QAnon was peaceful, but was used as an example. Yeah, in fact, exactly right. Because of the way he was dressed, they used that against him. He's a bit of a sap. He had no business in the building, but he was peaceful. He followed the police's orders. He actually helped the police. So it's really a shame. Really a shame. Thank you, Ash Engelbrecht. Okay, so it's working. Yeah. So yeah, it's really a shame that that he got the prison sentence that he got. He should have been charged with trespassing and maybe failure to obey lawful order from law enforcement. I mean, but he obeyed the order, so that shouldn't be the case. Yeah, he helped the cops. That's correct. And the Proud Boys actually, or the Oath Keepers, maybe it was the Oath Keepers. I think it was the Oath Keepers, actually helped police escape the building on the west side of the building. Capitol Police were trapped and couldn't get out in an area. They went in and provided security for them, unarmed security, and they were imprisoned for it. What happened on January 6th is full of lies and distortions, and these people will hold on to it forever with their lies. The truth will never be known unless people are willing to listen. It doesn't change the fact that there were people who broke the law and should have been punished. But 18 years in prison for a person who didn't even attend the event, claiming he had a seditious conspiracy, it's utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. Seditious conspiracy. Also, they tried to get these guys on weapons charges, but the weapons weren't even in the District of Columbia. Knowing D.C.'s harsh, unconstitutional laws and ordinances about firearms, they kept their firearms outside D.C. so they couldn't be charged. Utter nonsense. Those people were forced to go to Washington, D.C., a very dangerous place full of very vile criminals who rape and murder with impunity in D.C. They were forced to go there unarmed. Hope the truth comes out soon. What about the suppression of evidence? Yeah, it's a good question. Yes, he was judged by his looks. And so was the guy from the Proud Boys. Yeah, they call it a white supremacy group, but it's led by a Hispanic dude. Well, Hispanics aren't white until we need them to be white. Then for our conspiracy, they're white. So they're white. Remember that? Oh, yeah, no. White Americans are only 50% of the population. You can't count the Hispanics. They're not white. But the leader of the Proud Boys is white. But he's Hispanic. Well, now we count the white people. They're Hispanics. All right, Neville, take care. Did Ashley deserve to be blind shot around the corner where officials allow folks in? Did the take cover? What's this? I have no idea what you're saying there. It doesn't make any sense to me. I found that really funny. Hispanic. Yeah, exactly. Voila! He's a white guy. White Americans are fragile. They're afraid of not being the majority in this country anymore. And they'll do anything with their white supremacy to stop the country from becoming multicultural, multiracial. Oh, diversity makes us stronger. Those evil white people, the ones who change the laws and let all these people of color come to the country. Those evil old white men. Yes, no, they're so fragile. Those white people. Yes. No, Hispanics, they're not white. No. They're a minority. Taranto is convicted. Hispanic men. Oh, no, hey, Hispanics, hey, hola, they're white people now, hey. Oh, be so on fire, singing hot, hot, hot.
Hey, the Hispanics are the white people, man. Yeah, we are traditional white people with our tacos and our burritos. Yeah, sia condita, oye, muy calante. Yeah, the Hispanics are the white people now. Yeah, isn't that neat? Well, we already know that a very famous American broadcaster is the blackface of white supremacy. These people make anything up. Hispanics aren't white, and the blackface of white supremacy. They just make anything up, man. On a brighter note today, Justin Trudeau will resign as a leader of his political party. Oh, my goodness. Oh, I'm sorry. The Los Angeles Times. Trying to find that article. The blackface of white supremacy. Yeah, when Larry Elder. Here it is. I forgot the actual article. There it is. Come on up. There you go. Here you go, folks. I mean, they have no shame whatsoever. Larry Elder is the blackface of white supremacy. You've been warned, says the Los Angeles Times. In 2021, by Erica Smith, Larry Elder smiled, a smug smile of a black conservative who could do very well in liberal California's next governor. Where do you start with the damage Gavin Newsom has done to the state that we both love? Rising crime is because of phony narrative. The police are engaging in systemic racism. Cops are pulling back. I won't lie. Few things infuriate me more than watching a black person use willful blindness and cherry-pick facts to make overly simplistic arguments that whitewash the complex problems that have come along with being black in America. And throughout his career as a radio host, as a talking head on Fox News, and now as a gubernatorial candidate, Larry Elder has made a point of doing just that, usually with a lot of taunting and toddler-like name-calling of his ideological enemies in the process, which is exactly what Erica Smith is doing in this article, acting like a toddler, calling him the blackface of white supremacy. Well, I already have that article saved from 2021. Cold hard execution, in my opinion. Oh, yeah, it was. And he got away with it because he was black. Had he been white, his name would have been exposed. And we have the proof. Just a day or two after that, when a black person drove up to the barrier and tried to run over a Capitol police officer to gain entrance to the Capitol grounds, he was shot dead by a white police officer from the Capitol Police, correctly so. But his name was released the same day, putting his life in jeopardy by Black Lives Matter guys going after a white guy for having shot a black man at the Capitol building. They released his name the same day. That black cop, who is the same guy who lost his gun and left it in the bathroom unattended, a loaded firearm he left in the bathroom. This is a moron. Was promoted lieutenant after leaving his firearm unattended in the toilet, where kids could have found it, visiting the Capitol building. That's the guy who shot Ashley Babbitt. They covered up his identity as part of the entire January 6th cover-up. The only reason we know he's black and who he is because he's self-identified later on. Yep. Anyway. All right. Well, I've got snow to shovel. Latinos is not black, nor are they white. They are Latinos. No, Leah, they're white people. No, they're white people because it was white supremacy. It was the Proud Boys, a white supremacy organization. Trudeau on the wing against NHL enforcer and let him go. There you go, Mike. Watch him get plowed under. Let's put him in the AHL. He can play for who's the guys up there? The Rocket. The one's named after Maurice the Rocket. The Rocket. That's the AHL team up there in Canada. He can play for them. All right, that's going to wrap it up here, folks. Be sure to hit the like button. We only got 72 likes. We can do better than that. And we have our answer.
That was easy.
Donald John Trump certified through the Electoral College as the 47th President of the United States. There's one event left, January 20th. We got 2 weeks to keep the incompetent, inept Secret Service from having him assassinated. We've got to make sure that the Secret Service actually does its job and actually protects the president for once. So there you go. Do not know that crazy. Thank you for the play-by-play today. You're welcome, Mr. Smiley Burris. Be sure to hit the like button, folks. And we'll see you later on. I've got snow to shovel. I don't know if I'm going to do it all. And I'll see you tomorrow unless something breaks. Be sure to check out my other video, which I did earlier today on South Africa. That was on ANC bickering, which is not getting any play. Gosh, it's only got 700 views. Boy, I think YouTube is putting a kibosh on my videos together. They're not promoting them. I guess I have to make a video about racism. That's the only time people tune in large numbers. All right. Cheers. No, Latinos are a mix of everything. They started with Spanish. They mix with Native Americans. They mix with Africans. So they're everything. They're across the board. But most Hispanics in America self-identify as white.
Self-identify as white. Yep. All right. Cheers. We'll catch you later. Congratulations to Donald John Trump. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.